lovelies, and welcome back to Inside Number 23, my podcast which is all about knitting and sewing and generally living the craftiest life possible. My name is Katie and you can find me on all of the various social medias, Instagram, Ravelry, Periscope, all of that good stuff as Miss Lavelli. We also have a podcast group which is on Ravelry. You can just search Inside Number 23 on the groups tab and you will find our group there, so do head along and join. That's where I post all of my show notes as well as in the down bar just down below, but in general it's a little more interactive on the Ravelry group. I'm coming to you as always from a rather cold, wet and bleak UK. I live in Hertfordshire, which is just north of London, and I live here with my gorgeous husband Emrys and our lovely little pug puppy Rolly. And yes, a huge welcome back to any of my long-term viewers and a big hello, and welcome to anybody who's new here. I know that there are some of you who have joined recently, so thank you so much for subscribing, and thank you also just for spending a little bit of crafty time with me today. I appreciate that your time is very, very precious, so thanks for sharing it with me. Speaking of the Ravelry group is also where you can get involved with things like make-alongs, sew-alongs, knit-alongs, that type of thing, and at the moment we do have one knit-along which is ongoing, which I believe I forgot to mention last week. Everything was a little out of kilter last week. I'm currently co-hosting a Colour KAL with the lovely Marsha of the Twitch and Stitch podcast, and that will be going until the end of this month. So do still feel free to get involved in that. You do still have time to post projects either in my Ravelry group or in Marsha's. I have been very, very neglectful of my colour work, unfortunately, so I can only apologise for that. But if you want some inspiration, I would so encourage you to take a look at the Twitch and Stitch podcast, particularly the most recent one, in which Marsha shows off some of her beautiful colour work, and it's stunning. So if you need inspiration, do head over and say hi to her and show her some love because she is amazing. And yeah, it's just really nice. Everyone who has shared your work in the Ravelry group already, thank you for getting involved, and you guys are just awesome. I'm going to start off this week by saying a huge thank you to all of you guys. After my slightly, like I said, out of kilter episode last week, I had an incredible response from you all. Huge outpourings of love for the podcast and just the knitting community in general, and I just want to say thank you again. You're all amazing. I appreciate you so much, and thank you. Just thank you for all of the love and positivity you put out into the world, because we need it. And yeah, you're just wonderful. You're the best audience that a girl could ask for her crafty podcast, so thank you. It's been a little bit of an all over the place week for me again this week. To be honest, I'm really struggling with the work-life balance since coming back from holiday. I feel like I had a really nice rhythm just before we went away, and now it's got to the point where days are shorter, obviously, because we're heading into end of autumn, winter time, and it just feels like I have so much pent up energy wanting to do all of these amazing crafty things, and I just don't feel like I have the time to do them. So I'm working on it, you guys. I promise you I'm working on it in terms of better work-life balance, in terms of a little bit more me indulgent time, shall we say, to get some crafty stuff done. But as you can probably gather from this slightly rambling introduction, I haven't managed to do a huge amount this week. In particular, the thing that suffered has been sewing, so unfortunately there is going to be no sew what segment this week. Boo. I know, I'm just as disappointed as you are. My beautiful Cascade duffel coat that I'm wanting to get cut out, I have all of my fabric just sitting here. It still hasn't happened, but I do have a day off tomorrow, and I am literally just cordoning that off as sewing time. So hopefully this time next week I will have some sewing to share with you, but I do have some other fun segments to share with you this week, including a what am I wearing segment, what's on my needles. I have a very little stash enhancement section this week that is sewing based, so there is a little bit of sewing content, but very excitingly I do have an extra fun general waffle coming at the end of this episode, so do stay tuned for that if you are interested. before we get on to all of the crafty goodness, I did just want to give you guys an update for something that I talked about a little while ago on the podcast, and that was in a general waffle where I talked about wanting to maybe take a slight break from social media and constantly being on my phone all the time. And when I talked about this, I know that that's something that a lot of you kind of could feel along with me. A lot of you were very sympathetic of that and understood what that was like. So thank you for your support. But I wanted to give you a little update as to a couple of things that I'm starting to instigate now to make that a little bit possible. Or more possible, should we say. So first of all, one big thing that I did, and I know it's not really a big thing, but it did feel like quite a big deal. I've removed Facebook from my mobile phone. Shock horror. I'm still using Facebook, I'm still active on that social media platform, but I only have access to that now on my computer, which does make a big difference. It means that hours of my life are not spent trawling through Facebook. And considering the type of stuff that's been on there recently, it's been really refreshing to take a break from that. So that's the first thing that I did. I also talked about the fact that I didn't want to sleep with my phone by my bed any longer, and that was inspired by listening to the amazing Helen Stewart from Curious Handmade podcast, and check her out if you haven't because she's amazing. So thank you, Helen, for the inspiration. But in order to do that, I needed to find an alarm clock, and it took me a surprising amount of time to be able to find an alarm clock that I really liked, but I'm happy to say I have one. This is my new little alarm clock, and I know it's silly to share this with you on the podcast, but here it is, little mint green alarm clock. And I don't know if you can really tell, but the actual hands of this are kind of a rose gold colour, which I absolutely love. And I got this from Marks and Spencer's just the other day. I'd been looking for a very long time and hadn't found one that I liked or that was in a decent price range, because you'd be surprised how expensive alarm clocks can be. But yes, I finally have my little alarm clock, which has now taken the place of my phone by my bedside, and from now onwards there will be no phone at bedtime. So I'm quite happy about that, and it's also encouraging me to get more knitting done and also some reading, which is something I haven't done in such a long time, which is amazing. The other big change that I'm hoping to make relatively soon is something that came up in a conversation with one of my really best girlfriends, Lizzie, who I don't think she watches, but if you are, Lizzie, hello. And she came over to my house recently and brought up the topic of bullet journaling. And I've been thinking about keeping a bullet journal for quite some time because I carry notebooks with me everywhere. I've talked about on the podcast before about how I'm obsessed with notebooks, but I love writing everything down, making lists for everything. So out of that, it seemed that bullet journaling would be a logical next step if I wanted to keep all of that in one place. And Lizzie shared with me her bullet journal and a couple of layouts that she'd been using, and I just got so excited about it. So I am considering starting a bullet journal. So watch this space and let me know if that's something that you'd be interested in kind of hearing about on the podcast, because I'd love to share that with you, maybe in an additional kind of video every so often outside of the podcast, like a little bonus video or something like that. But I'm very excited. I have a book on order and some gorgeous new pens. So if anything, this is just going to fully indulge my stationery addiction that I haven't really had the opportunity to indulge since I was at school. So yes, all in all, I feel that all of these things are just making me feel better about little habits that I'm picking up that I want to maintain. So yes, all in a really, really good place. But with all that to one side, let's move on to a little bit of knitting content, shall we? Because I know that's why you're all here. So I'm going to start off this week with, what am I wearing? And yes, I am wearing a particularly lovely piece of knitwear this week, and that is my Colourwork yoke sweater. Now, I wish I could tell you what pattern I used for this sweater. I think I may have mentioned it way back on one of my first episodes of this podcast, but unfortunately I have lost it. It was a paper pattern that I purchased from a charity shop for about 50p, and I believe it was a Cedar pattern. But yes, it seems to have gone walkabout, and I spent a good kind of half an hour or so trying to locate it in my sewing room. As yet, I have been unsuccessful, unfortunately, but I absolutely love this. This was one of the projects that got me back into knitting when I'd been on a bit of a hiatus for some time, and this really is one of the only garments that I was wearing that was kind of hand knit for a very, very long time. It's knit in double knit. This is literally just a wool acrylic blend that I purchased from John Lewis. Again, I was just getting back into knitting, so I wasn't kind of full into my speciality, beautiful, gorgeous natural fibre yarns at that point, but I just love it. The colour scheme, it makes me so happy. I'm going to pop up just so you can see the whole thing. So the main body is this kind of minty green with blue, white and red accents, and I love it. It makes me really, really happy. It also knitted up very quickly because, as you can see, it is double knit. And although it's not strictly a Christmas jumper, because I tend to think of Christmas jumpers as being severely Christmas themed, so reindeers and snowflakes all around, it does feel quite festive and appropriate for this time of year, so I enjoy it for that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about for what am I wearing this week is not something that I'm wearing right now, but it is something that has finally had a trip out into the wide world this week after I completed it a little earlier on in the year, and that is this hat. So I don't know if you remember this. Isn't it gorgeous? This is the Harvest Moon hat. It's a free pattern on Ravelry if you're interested in knitting one up yourself, and it's a relatively simple cabled pattern. It is gorgeous, and this yarn was actually sent to me from Fondant Fibre, and it is the Violet Cream colourway, and I just love it. This has been sitting in my drawer for quite some time because obviously it hasn't been cold enough to wear a big woolly hat with pom-pom for quite some time in this country, but recently the temperatures have been dropping quite dramatically, and it was around about maybe -3 the other day when we were walking Rolly, so I bundled up. I was looking in my drawer to try and find a pair of old gloves that I have, because as yet I don't have any handmade gloves, but more on that later, and this popped out at me and I just thought I have to wear this. It is so cozy and it has a pom-pom and I just love it. It's a really, really good just throw on, be comfortable hat, and I couldn't be happier with it. I am in the process of making myself a new set of kind of winter accessories. I talked about that last week, but I just really, really like this as a throw-on hat, an easy to wear hat. It's so squishy, the yarn is beautiful, and who doesn't love a pom-pom? So yes, this finally got its first trip out into the big wide world this week, and I was very, very happy to have it. I've never really been a hat knitter, but in much the same way that I had never been a sock knitter, and I'd kind of lost my sock knitting mojo, but now that I'm actually in a position where I can wear these things, I just want them all. I want to knit them all the hats and all the socks and everything. But socks, my goodness, talk about sock monster last week. We've gone on to a completely different level this week, but let's take one thing at a time, shall we? So that's what I've been wearing. So let's move right along to what's on my needles, because although sewing has been scarce, I have been doing a fair bit of knitting this week, and disappointingly both my cardigan and my sweater have been languishing this week again, because the sock monster inside has to be satisfied. That's all I can say. From having absolutely no sock mojo whatsoever, all I can think about is knitting socks and buying sock yarn. I don't have any yarny stash enhancements to share with you this week, but if I keep going the way that I'm going in terms of tempting myself online by looking at sock yarn, watch this space, because you can pretty much guarantee I'm going to have some sock yarn based stash enhancements soon. It's terrible, but I do have, very excitingly, a finished object to share with you this week, and I wonder if you can guess what kind of a finished object it is. It's socks! As if you couldn't know that it was going to be socks. But I have completed this pair of socks. This yarn is by Gnomeacres on their kind of stellina base that they have, and it is called Bertie Botts, named after Bertie Botts Every Flavoured Beans from Harry Potter. And I have completed these socks, and can I just tell you how in love I am with these. I'm going to pop them off the sock blockers just so that I can kind of show them to you a little bit closer, but just look at these colours. This is pretty much every colour that makes me happy. If there was a bit of red in here, that would just be everything. The whole spectrum of colours that really, really make my heart sing. But I have christened these my my bonfire night socks, because obviously this time of year for us in the UK, we've had bonfire night now. And these just make me think of fireworks with the gold stellina in there, and also all of the bright jewel colours going on. But I love them. And I just want to talk a little bit about the construction of these, because I've spoken previously about trying to find the perfect way of knitting socks for myself, and I genuinely think that this is the way forward for me. These were toe-up socks, and until recently all I've ever done is top down, so cuff down. But with these I used Judy's Magic Cast On for a toe up construction. I cast on 56 stitches for the body of the foot. I used a kind of wrap and turn heel, so a simple wrap and turn heel, which has pretty much no holes in either side of the heel, which I think is amazing. From doing cuff down, I've always noticed that I tend to get a little hole in my sock, whilst with the toe up, I never get that. And I'm wondering, maybe it's because of the construction, never know. I then do 20 rows of rib at the top. I like to do my personal favourite, which is a 1x1 twisted rib, which looks like this. Isn't it gorgeous? Oh, it's so pretty. And then I cast off using Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off. So if you're interested in any of these techniques, I'll see whether I can find some YouTube tutorials and link them down below if you haven't used these before. But I think this is going to be my construction of choice from now onwards. I just love these socks. I love them so much, and it's really, really nice to not have second sock syndrome and to have them off the needles and ready to wear. And I haven't worn them because I wanted them to be nice and fresh to share with you guys on the podcast, but I am wearing these. I'm putting these on tomorrow and I'm going to wear them, and it's going to be amazing. I'm so happy with them, if you haven't been able to tell so far. So that is the finished object that I have this week. I do have some works in progress to share with you as well. So my first work in progress is a project that I have shared with you previously, and surprise, surprise, it's another sock. As I told you last week, I had finished the first of this particular pair of socks. This is the I Love You More Than Pumpkin Spice sock pattern by lovely CC Almond of the Geeky Girls Knit podcast, and the yarn that I am using is by Hand Dyed by Kate in her pumpkin spice latte colourway, which she was generous enough to send to me, so thank you so much again, Kate. And I have cast on the second sock. Isn't it adorable? Look at it. And yes, I'm using my Progress Keeper from Sucre Sucre Miniatures, which is a pumpkin spice latte. These socks could not get any more themed if they tried. And I've been working on this a little bit each night. It's such a lovely pattern to work with, you guys. If you haven't knit up the I Love You More Than Pumpkin Spice socks, they are just so addictive. They look relatively involved in terms of the pattern that you're using, I must admit, because you do have this cable on each side of the main kind of pumpkin motif, and you've also got kind of textured patterns going up the sides. But believe me, once you've done this a couple of times, it becomes second nature, and it's just so addictive. It's one of those patterns where you think, oh, just let me get another little pumpkin. I'll just do another pumpkin and then I'll do what I'm supposed to be doing. But yes, I am enjoying these so much. In case you're interested, I am knitting these magic loop on some 2.25mm Knit Pro Symphony needles. Those are rosewood, and I really, really like these for knitting socks. So yeah, I'm really enjoying working on these. Yay, happy pumpkin socks. And I have one more whip to share with you this week, and it is a new work in progress. Oh, exciting. And yes, I know it's terrible because I have so many things on the needles. I really don't need to cast on anything else. But like I said, it's been getting cold and I really want to have some nice winter accessories to wear that aren't all mismatched and odd looking. So I decided that it was time to cast on the mittens that I talked about last week, which are the August mittens, and they are from a collection which is called the Year of Mittens, but you can buy the patterns separately, which is what I did with this particular pattern. This is by Kate Gagnon Osborne, and this is how much I have done so far. Oh, look! Isn't it gorgeous? I am so happy with how this is looking at the moment. Oh, so this is the front. Obviously it has a lot of cabling. So we have this kind of diamond cable, and then we have this regular cable, and then two smaller cables on the sides with a kind of textured background. If I can just swap it over and show you the back, that is also lovely and textured and gorgeous. So you can see I have done up to where you divide for the thumb. That's where the thumb will get knitted into once I finish the body of the mitten. And guys, these are just knitting themselves. This is so addictive and I love it so much. I keep kind of trying it on to see how it would fit. And I must admit, I was a little anxious at first because I have quite big hands. I have big hands and big feet and long fingers. And I was a little concerned that this was going to come out tiny, particularly when I cast on the rib. But look. Look at how cute it is. It's going to fit really nicely and be lovely and snuggly. And the nice thing is that having this real textured pattern on the back, it means that it's going to be super insulated and really warm when I'm wearing it. So that makes me really happy. I can't wait to get this done and wear it and then be able to cast on my hat, which is pretty much matching in terms of pattern, although it's from a completely different collection. The yarn that I'm using is Knit by Numbers from John Arbon. This is the 4-ply weight, and this colour just makes me so happy. I'm a huge fan of burgundy, but I just, makes me so happy. Just up in my stash up here, I also have the DK weight version of the same colour of the Knit by Numbers, and that will be for the little hat that I intend to cast on once these are finished. But at the moment, as you can tell, I seem to be very into small portable projects, and I know that I could get down on myself that my cardigan and my sweater are not really being knitted much on, but I'm very much a believer in do what makes you happy, and if this is what's making my heart happy right now, then so be it. And plus I know that I'll get a lot of wear out of this pretty soon as it's done. In terms of needles, I am using higher sharps for this particular project. Again, pretty much my favourite needles to use. These are from my interchangeable set that I actually got given at Christmas last year. 2.75mm, not sure if I said that before, but again, on magic loop, which is really my preferred method for anything small like this, be it mittens or socks or anything. But I can't wait to finish this. I honestly think by this time next week I will have finished at least the first one of these, and I just love it. This is really what I want to be knitting on more than anything else right now, although the socks are incredibly appealing as well. But the problem that I'm having, like I said at the beginning of this episode, is that I just have so many things that I want to be working on at the moment. It's a real struggle. I was listening to the Knit More Girls podcast this week, and Gigi was talking about having startitis and just wanting to cast on all of the things, and I really am suffering from startitis as well, but more than anything, it's sock monster startitis. If you have been watching the podcast for a while, you'll know that I went through a long period when pretty much no socks were being knitted whatsoever. I just was not interested. Now that the sock mojo has awoken within me, all I can think about is knitting socks and all of the beautiful sock yarns that I have and what projects I would want to cast on. So in addition to all of these gorgeous things that I have on the go at the moment, my mittens and my pumpkin spice socks, which do make me really, really happy, I also have a couple of other projects that I am chomping at the bit in order to get started. So I thought I would share those with you quickly at the end of this segment. Last week I talked about the fact that lovely Tracy of Nora George had sent me the most beautiful parcel of yarn, and the colourway that she sent me was a sock set called Toffee Apple, and I caked it up pretty much as soon as the episode was finished uploading last week. I couldn't resist it. These are the two cakes of yarn. So on the bottom we have the main body, which is Toffee Apple. It's this lovely natural colour with kind of flecks of orange and a gorgeous green, and this lovely, like, it's like a sour apple green as the contrast colour. And I love it. I know exactly what I'm casting on with these. I'm casting on the Mercury socks, which are a lace sock pattern, but I am determined that I'm not allowed to cast this on until the I Love You More Than Pumpkin Spice socks are finished, because this again is a lace pattern. It's relatively involved, and I know that if I start working on this before I finish the pumpkin spice socks, I'll just not finish them, because the patterns are too similar in terms of both of them being relatively, not necessarily hugely complex, but more than just a vanilla sock, if you get my meaning. So these are all ready to go as soon as that one is finished, and hopefully I'll be finishing that up this week. But in terms of my vanilla sock fix, I do have a bit of an opening, because I've obviously finished my Bonfire socks. These are off the needles, and satisfying they were indeed. And I'm really itching for another set of vanilla socks to be on the needles. And I think that that would be relatively acceptable, to have both a pattern sock and a vanilla sock on the go at the same time. I tell you guys, it's startitis. I'm telling myself anything to try and make it okay that I just want to cast on all the things. But I was going through my yarn stash, and I do have some really, really special skeins of yarn in my lovely stash, lovely indie dyers. And I came across one that I had been waiting for the perfect time to cast them on. And I feel that the time may be now. And that will be for a number of reasons. But let me first show you the yarn. And here it is. Look at it, you guys. So this is a purchase that I made from London House Yarns, which is a UK based dyer who I adore, and I have knit some socks by her previously. My 4 Founders socks are also by London House Yarns, and I love them. This is a sock duo set, which means basically that your yarn is already divided into 2 little skeins, which makes 2 at a time socks very easy. Which basically brings me on to the fact that I want to try 2 at a time socks. I want to try using the construction that I use for my Bonfire socks, but 2 at a time. So I really, really, really think that this is going to be the yarn that makes that happen. And plus, it's coming up to Christmas time, and this is really, you know, it's this colourway is called Yule Ball, and it's a Harry Potter inspired colourway again, from the Yule Ball from the film, which is obviously the Christmas time ball that the guys go to in Harry Potter. So it couldn't really be a better time of year to cast these on, because if I want them ready for Christmas, I better get a wiggle on, or at least if I want to work on them around Christmas time, it would be a good thing to at least get them started now. But it couldn't be better, because they're all ready to go. I just need to cake them up, and then I can try 2 at a time socks. And the idea of that makes me really, really happy, to learn a new technique, to have some vanilla socks on the needles, which I really, really want, but also to be using this beautiful self-striping, which is just gonna be gorgeous. I can't wait. I'm also thinking of using a black yarn for the contrasting cuff, toe and heel for these, because I think that will look really nice. I think it will just kind of break up all of the colour a little bit and look really, really good. So I'm really happy. Because, you know, anything Harry Potter themed is going to make me super happy, particularly if it's got stellina, if it's a bit Christmassy and it's self-striping. So that's going to happen. So yeah, you could pretty much say I've got my work cut out in terms of what I want to work on over the next couple of months. I think this is probably going to keep me going for some time, but I just can't deny where my heart is, and that is with accessories, socks and mittens and a hat soon. Goodness knows when those garments are going to get done. I hope that my garment mojo comes back in the same way that I was hoping my sock mojo would come back, and now it's come back with a vengeance. I'm just never happy, am I? But for now, I'm just going to indulge in the socks because who wouldn't want all of these socks? Just looking at this, I have a pile of gorgeous yarny goodness right next to me here. It's bringing me so much joy. So I do have a very, very little stash enhancement this week, and it's sewing based, and it was completely inspired by Casey of Creative Musings, a lovely, lovely podcast which you should check out. So hi Casey, if you're watching. But she mentioned on one of her previous episodes that she had actually purchased Bertie Style magazine, the November issue, and it had a pattern in it by the designer Lena Hoschek, and she is a designer. By the way, I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I'm terrible at names, but she is a designer that I really, really love because her aesthetic is very kind of 1940s, 50s inspired. So when I saw that she had released a pattern within that magazine, I just had to buy it. So I did. This is Bertie Style, and like I said, this is the November edition, which was out for a little while in the UK. I'm not sure if it's available in the States or not. I know it's available in the UK and in Europe in general, but let me just show you the picture of the pattern. This is the pattern. Isn't it gorgeous? So it has buttons down the center, a sweetheart neckline, sleeves and a full skirt, and I am obsessed with this. I want this pretty much in the exact fabric that they have in here. So I'm really, really happy to have this collection. To be honest, I bought this magazine specifically for that pattern, but when I was actually flipping through it, I was amazed at kind of the variety to start off with of patterns that are available in here. At the cost, because this magazine was $4.99, which I appreciate is relatively expensive for a magazine in general, unless you're buying kind of a really high-end magazine, something like Vogue that costs an arm and a leg, which is what I used to read a little while ago. Not so much anymore. But the fact is, you get, let me just see, 52 patterns and variations for £4.99 in this collection. And a lot of the time with indie pattern designers that I love to use, you know, for example, I've talked about Tilly and the Buttons and Deer and Doe, Sew Over It, they are incredible, but you do tend to spend a lot more on individual patterns. So you may be spending about £4.99 just on one individual pattern. Whilst with this, you get a huge selection of patterns. So even if there's only one or two things in here that you really, really like, I still think it's kind of a worthwhile investment, and it's just really nice to have. There are a couple of really lovely things in here which I like. In particular, this jacket I think is gorgeous. With the massive lapels. The way that they've styled it is adorable as well, with all of the pins. And I have been very into pins right now, so you never know, I may be running up one of these. But again, we do get to the situation where I have the best intentions in the world of wanting to cast on everything, and then I have no time to do it. So this may be taking a back seat, but it's just a lovely thing to have in the meantime. Going on from the November edition of Bertie Style, the December edition also came out just this week, and I was in WH Smith picking up a couple of bits and pieces, and they happened to have this as well. And there are just, again, some really, really lovely designs in here. I'm not really in the market for a coat because I'm hoping to get my Cascade duffel coat sewn soon, but if I was, I would be wanting to make one of these, which is gorgeous. But one of the other things that really caught my eye and made me laugh was the fact that in this edition of the magazine, they have onesie patterns. Isn't that adorable? So yes, I am the type of person who at Christmas enjoys a festive onesie when I'm lounging around on, be it Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and I've never actually seen a pattern for them before, so that was really sweet because, you know, you could buy some really fun festive jersey and just run yourself up one of these because they look super easy, and plus they come in multiple different sizes, so you could make a onesie for every member of your family for Christmas if you wanted. So ridiculous. But yes, again, I just think it's really good value for money. Again, £4.99, slightly less patterns in this one this time, 46, but still 46 patterns for £4.99. That's just, you really can't complain about that kind of a cost. So really happy with these. I must say, just so that you know, I'm not in any way endorsed by Bird of Style magazine. I'm just really excited to try some of these out. It has been a while since I've used kind of one of the big 4 patterns. So I'm looking forward to seeing the quality of these and how I get on with using them. So watch this space. As soon as I actually make something from one of these, I will let you know. But yeah, I just think good value for money and a nice selection of different patterns. So yay, big thumbs up for a little sewing stash enhancement. So in terms of creative content, that's about everything for this week. I know we're a little bit thin on the ground, so I apologise for that, but hopefully over the next couple of weeks I'm going to have a lot more to share with you if I actually get my act together and get myself organised and crafting again, which I really hope I do because I'm missing it, particularly the sewing. But as I said at the beginning of this episode, I now have an extra special general waffle to share with you because I'm going to be joined by my husband Emrys, for all of those who might have been missing him since Vlogtober. But more than that, we also may be joined by a little furry co-host in the final segment of the podcast this week. So I'm going to hand you over to them in a different location, so through movie magic. I shall transport you across. I hope you've enjoyed all of the creative content, but it's time now for General Waffle. Yay! It's a whole family podcast. Aww. It's the first time we have podcast as a family. Isn't it, buddy? So apologies for any snuffles and snorts that you can hear because we are joined by a little poodlet. And he's very happy to be here with us, but he does tend to chat quite a lot, doesn't he, in his own little way.
I don't apologise for any of it.
we don't apologise for our talkative pug.
Unashamed snuffles.
Emrys is back! Yay! So excited to have you back on the podcast. It's been a while since Vlogtober, but I think you guys have missed him, so I brought him back. And for those of you who have not met him before, this is my lovely husband Emrys, who has kindly decided to come back onto the podcast for General Waffle. General Waffle this week, because we are going to be talking about films, one of our favourite things to talk about in the world. And as you may or may not know, we both have unlimited cinema tickets for this year. So we're going to be going to see a lot of movies.
So we've seen 3 films recently. We saw Girl on a Train.
Number 2.
We saw Arrival.
We did. And number 3.
We just saw Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Literally just got back from going to the cinema to see Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. How exciting.
See, it's night time out there.
It's night time. It's dark. This is darker than we've ever recorded anything and kind of later in the day.
Never recorded at night.
Never recorded at night previously, but we were that excited. Rolly is clearly excited. We just had to talk about these films. And guys, this is something that we're hoping to do more regularly, so please let me know in the comments down below. You enjoy that bit as well, don't you? Yeah. Or obviously comment in the Ravelry group if this is something that you enjoy, because we are hoping to do it perhaps on a monthly basis, something like that. But let me know what your thoughts and feelings are. One thing that I will say before we kind of kick off with anything is that we're not going to do super spoilers, but there may be some kind of baby spoilers in our little talks about these films. So bear that in mind if you haven't seen any of these films. But I will timestamp down below as to when we talk about each individual film if you would prefer to skip past one that you have not seen yet. So shall we kick it off with Girl on the Train? Girl on the Train, in case you don't know, is based on the book by the same name. Neither of us have read the book.
No.
We both went into this film pretty much with no knowledge whatsoever as to what the film would be about, other than the fact that a lot of people had said that the book was amazing and therefore the film was likely to be amazing. So what were your thoughts about Girl on the Train?
Thought it was really good. Good Hitchcockian, suspenseful sort of, thriller.
It is. It's like a modern day interpretation of a Hitchcock kind of film.
Really solid performances from everyone in it. There's no real weakness in there from an acting point of view.
And there is a bit of a twist in the tale of this film, and neither of us saw it coming, I don't think. And it was literally a moment. There were a couple of moments where I think we both turned to each other and kind of went, like, for various reasons, because there are quite a few very intense moments in this film. From just an entertainment perspective, I would really, really recommend it. And I must admit that now that I have seen the film, I'm very keen to read the book or listen to the audiobook. Basically, we both have a very big thumbs up.
Yeah, we're going to score the films.
Yes, we are. What would your... Yes, so we're going to do our 5-star system. What mark would you give? What mark? What rating? What would you give Girl on the Train?
I would give it 4 out of 5.
I would also give it 4 out of 5. Yes, that is a solid 4 out of 5 for Girl on the Train.
Really good film. I'd maybe even say like a 4.5. It was very good. I really enjoyed it.
So... And I know that Emrys is really excited to talk about this one. What was the second film that we saw?
Arrival!
Arrival!
Which I must say, from watching the trailer, was maybe not a film I would have definitely gone to see.
Yeah, we pretty much ended up going to see Arrival because I wanted to go and see it because I'm an Amy Adams fan. I think she's great.
And ironically, I don't rate her that highly, and that was part of the reason why I wasn't that fussed about seeing it.
You wanted to go and see Doctor Strange.
Which we still haven't seen.
I know, we need
Maybe we'll be talking about that next month.
Perhaps, but Emrys didn't, you know, he wasn't that fussed, but I was just like, I really want to go and see Arrival. So we went to see Arrival, and funnily enough, one of us was quite moved by this film, and it wasn't the person who really wanted to see it in the first place, although I did enjoy it. It was this guy. So maybe you want to talk us through this one a little bit.
I feel like this is going to be a really difficult one to talk about without spoiling it. So I kind of don't want to talk about it that much.
Okay. Can you give us a kind of basic outline as to... You know.
Ultimately, Amy Adams plays a character of a woman who is a specialist in linguistics and language. And
which attracted me to this film, first of all, because I find that so fascinating. And from a science fiction perspective as well, because it is a sci-fi film as well. I've never seen that kind of topic dealt with in that genre. So I was like, ooh, that's going to be really interesting.
It's such a good point. You know, in other films we have where, you know, we have like a kind of first contact with an alien race, which is what this film is about. We just kind of go straight to, like, you know,
let's kill them all.
Well, yeah, or just not necessarily killing them all, but we go straight to, like, interacting with them and what they want and all this stuff. But actually, the first step of that would be understanding each other.
Yeah. The one thing I would say about Arrival as a film is if you're at all put off by the idea of going to see a sci-fi film that's about aliens and contacting aliens, please do not let that put you off seeing this film, because it is about so much more than the idea of making contact with aliens. If anything, it is a real human story about relationships, about what makes us tick, and about how we communicate with each other, set in a very fantastical setting that happens to involve first contact with aliens.
The double-edged sword of this film ultimately is, if this film presented itself as what it was in the trailer, it would spoil itself. And so many films do that these days, and if you're like me, then you really, really hate that. But the disadvantage of that is that it doesn't tell you what it is. So you maybe I nearly did. You think, well, you know, I like films about aliens, so I might go and see it, but you know, it doesn't look like the best thing in the world. You know, I really, really encourage you to go and see it. Like you said, if you don't like sci-fi films, this isn't really a sci-fi film. Of course, it has science fiction elements in it. But equally, if you thought the trailer, yeah, that looks okay, please go and see it. It is fantastic.
So what will you give this film out of 5?
It's 5 out of 5.
5! That's amazing. I'm going to go with a solid 3.
3?
3, yeah.
You liked Girl on the Train more than you liked Arrival?
Yes.
Not sure if I can talk to you anymore.
I really, really enjoyed it, but I think part of my enjoyment of a film is whether or not I would see it again right away. And I wouldn't with Arrival.
I mean,
I would with Girl on the Train.
I do think Arrival is not a film that you will watch over and over again. Like, you know, one of our favourite films is About Time, which we've talked about before, and that is a film that I could watch over and over again.
Let's watch it now.
Whereas Arrival may not be a film you watch over and over again, but the message of this film and the fact that it just takes you so much by surprise is why it's a 5 out of 5 and why it is now one of my favourite films of all time.
For those of you who are interested, Rolly has fallen asleep. You can kind of see him, that little...
You can see like the back of him,
you can see his butt.
Here,
But he's snoring.
Yeah.
Snoring quite contentedly. We have one more film to talk about, guys.
Fantastic Beasts. And where to find them.
And yes, I did wear my Weasley jumper.
Of course you did.
Because, and...
No.
My Hufflepuff.
She's flexible.
My Hufflepuff socks. So...
Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is a new original screenplay written by J.K. Rowling.
In the same universe of Harry Potter.
And it is about, obviously there is an actual book which is named this, which is a textbook. Oh, she's going to get it and Rolly's woken up. It's a textbook about different beasts and where to find them. This film is not a story of a textbook, but is in fact a story about the writer of this book.
Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
There it is.
So, funny thing, this book was first released in the UK for comic relief. This book is a textbook that is mentioned in Harry Potter in terms of care of magical creatures.
May I have a look?
Yes, please do. And the idea is
It's got pictures in it.
Yeah, it's a textbook. And there's doodles in it as well because it's supposed to be that Ron Weasley has doodled in Harry Potter's book.
Oh, really?
Yes. So the idea is that Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is one of the school books that Harry and Ron and Hermione and all the guys at Hogwarts, I can't speak, use in order to learn magic. But it was originally written as a book that you could buy for £1. I kid you not, for comic relief. They released Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them and Quidditch Through the Ages, and it was just a really nice kind of little addition to your Harry Potter series. I believe you can buy it now in much more exciting editions than this book. This is the original publication of that book, which I did buy for £1 for comic relief. But moving on to the film, the idea behind the film is that it's actually not much to do with the textbook. The idea is Newt Scamander, who is the author of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, is in the process of writing this book. And during his adventures, he ends up in New York City, and that's where we find him, where the films take place. But he also has with him a magical case, and this case is more than it seems, and a couple of magical creatures somehow magical creatures end up escaping. But there's so much more going on in this film than that, but I don't want to say anything more, because I think the thing that I love the most is going into a film within the Harry Potter universe where I literally knew nothing about what was going to happen. It was almost tantamount to the moment where I picked up that first Harry Potter book and I fell into this created universe that I knew nothing about. And for someone who knows those books inside out, it was a really, really lovely experience.
I quite like Harry Potter stuff. I'm maybe not as into it as you are, but I do enjoy it. I've not read the books. I know, it's awful.
He's just seen the films.
I've seen the films, which I think the story is fantastic. And for me, this film was okay. I don't think it was a bad film. I enjoyed it just fine. I feel like the plot was not very interesting. There just wasn't a great deal going on. Kind of two storylines happening. One is very interesting and clearly has, you know, further to go and more to be told or found out about it, and was not in the film very much. The other one is visually very interesting, but
lots of fantastic beasts.
Yeah, lots of fantastic beasts, which all look wonderful, and the interactions with them are really charming. but probably for me not enough to sustain a whole what felt like a 3-hour movie.
The kind of advantage that I have over Emrys is that having read the books rather than just seen the film, I have a much more kind of wider view of the Harry Potter universe.
You have a deeper knowledge of the characters.
Yes.
And
so some characters that are never really featured heavily in Harry Potter, but are mentioned repeatedly, and from reading the books you do kind of get to know them and their history. I pretty much knew from the very beginning of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them where these films could kind of progress to, just because of the name of one character that was mentioned and how interesting that could play out in films yet to come. The main thing that I felt throughout this film is that it's expositional. It's setting up this new idea of a new part of the Harry Potter world that no one's experienced before.
Effectively what we're getting here is we're getting the first part of some prequels to Harry Potter.
For me, this film, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, is the same thing that Rogue One is for Emrys.
Yeah.
In terms of him and Star Wars and me and Harry Potter. And I think that I'm really excited about how I feel that the Star Wars universe is embracing other aspects of that universe and being like, guys, we love this world. We think this world is incredible. Yes, we've done some pretty shoddy things with it in the past, but we're gonna do right by it from now onwards. And let's be honest, the world is gonna be a better place if there's more Star Wars universe in the world. That's what Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is to Harry Potter. And I think that they've done it really, really well. And as a die-hard Harry Potter fan, I was really like up there to be, I hate it, I'm going to pick it apart and it's going to be awful, because I am that type of person. I'm a hypercritical person, but genuinely, I was grinning from ear to ear through the entire film.
What was your favourite beast?
You know which one? They have a niffler. And the best bit of the whole film, the best bit, there was a pug in it. There was a pug and it met the niffler, and there was a moment and I was just like, because he's so asleep, put him back down. Oh, baby. But the niffler reminded me of Rolly anyway, just in how kind of fat and cheeky it was. Oh, it was wonderful. Oh, I want to watch it again. It was so good. I thought it was wonderful.
So what's your score?
5 stars! 5!
I'm going to give it a 2.5. Yeah.
I think that's
generous
fair enough.
2.5.
I think that's fair for what you got from it. I think that's really fair. That's a solid middle ground. That's like a C. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a pass.
C-. Yeah.
You're a harsh man. You're a harsh man.
Can't believe you gave Arrival a 3, not even a 4.
5 Fantastic Beasts.
3 really good films that were,
so different.
Good for us to discuss.
So
with
different as well.
Viewpoints on them.
There are some amazing films that are going to be coming out soon as well, so I really can't wait. And yeah, this has been really great. Did a really good general waffle.
Can we do it again?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I think on a monthly basis.
No, I meant the general waffle thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
You want to do it again?
Yeah, is that alright? This has been a good general waffle.
General waffle. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, here we are, the little podcasting family. This is really nice. This has made me very happy. I hope you've enjoyed this as well, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, please let us know what you've thought of our little movie segment. Maybe you have some ideas of some new movies that we could be going to see, things that are coming up relatively soon. If there is anything that you would like us to see and review together, then please do let us know. Rolly is literally almost comatose in my arms right now, so we better go and take this little bubble, take him to bed. Thank you all so much for watching. We're sending you all so much love. We will see you all again soon. For now, happy movie watching, happy sewing, happy knitting, happy pug yawning. Bye!
Bye!
I'm a niffler.
She really is.
I am.